Welcome to Nonprofit Network, powered by Stokes Auction Group. We are a group of fundraising professionals that specialize in raising funds to improve communities of all sizes.
We are recording.
Hey!
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, we are.
So behave.
Behave.
We are here.
Be good.
We are being
Be
good.
good, for goodness
We
sake.
are not being bad.
No.
Bad. This is another episode of Nonprofit Network.
Again, you're trying to lead it, and
Your
I'm
name
the
is-
commentator, Kelly Schenfeld.
And you are the moderator, the world's greatest moderator,
There you go.
or commentator,
There.
or whatever you want to call it. I'm Shelby Stokes,
Paulie Schenfeld here. Hello, fellow fundraiser fanatics.
and I'm here to not moderate. You want to see?
Watch me not
Watch
moderate.
me not
Here we
moderate.
go and go.
It's not going to happen. You send us an email. How many times, Shelby?
Tries to auctioneer's way out of the deal. Just down here auctioneering
One to
things.
down, one to
Oh,
down,
yeah, the
one to
man
down,
with the
two.
mic.
Yeah.
They're the most important part of the night.
Have you ever had a photographer tell you to act candid?
Yes.
It's the worst.
Impossible.
It's not impossible to act candid.
It's not?
No.
Oh, are you one of those where you see a
Is it-
camera phone and you're like,
No, but candid is like just like be natural, like there's not a camera here. But that's not possible once you know there's a camera there. Like then
Oh,
you're
yeah,
done,
yeah, yeah.
right? Like, there's
That's
no
what I
way to
thought you
act
meant.
candid.
you just keep doing what you were doing. There you go. Okay, before we dive into our podcast today, we're going to talk a little bit about June
How's
solstice
this?
because it was a picture that we used for the Ivan Files podcast today. And I was just curious.
Accurate.
We've got a couple more pods between now and then, but are either of you planning to go to any June solstice, dance around the moon, nuded booty parties?
That is not on my Google Calendar
It
yet.
is not. Okay,
No,
Paul, what about
but-
you? You're laughing,
No.
so I'm going to say you haven't been invited yet?
No,
or
I was just starting to, digest how interesting of an idea that would be.
That's right. Yeah. I'm waiting for my mailer.
It would
Like
be.
I'm waiting by the mailbox for a mailer to pop in to be like, come
from
dance
Wicca
with
Central
us.
or something?
Wicca Central.
Yeah, I don't know.
I didn't realize there were different branches of Wicca, but
Yeah,
that's
no,
cool.
there's. I didn't either, but there is now.
Yeah.
So I just made that up.
Welcome to the Western Wicca branch.
Welcome to the Western Wicca.
Wicca
branch.
or Wiccan?
Oh,
I think it's-
tomato potato, right?
Wicca or Wiccan? Wicca.
Wicca.
You were
We
way
also
off.
do
That's what I thought you were talking about. I'm like, oh, okay. I know those people.
I know those people, and yes, I'm gonna
Yes.
dance. So,
A person would be a Wiccan.
a person.
Okay, that's what I'm
Yes.
thinking.
We're
Yes.
we're getting educated
Okay.
out
We're
here.
getting by the
We're
Ivan,
getting
yes.
educated. Yeah.
So today we're kind of liking this forum a little bit, format, whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it, and I just love asking these two gentlemen questions. So I kind of came up with a couple more questions, and we're not going to talk about our weekends because these questions may feed that.
Yeah.
These questions may launch us into weekend and as well as
Like weekend update.
weekend
Da-na-na,
update.
da-na-na.
Yeah. So you walk into a room.
Okay.
You've already had your pre-event call. They booked you. They signed. They're so excited. Everything's gonna be great. They're telling you all these things, and we've got this in line. We've got this game, and we've got that. We got these items to sell. We think that there's this, and this in the room. I know people are gonna buy stuff. You walk in, and you realize 5 minutes after you walk in that they are not there for a fundraiser. They are there for a party or just a get out evening, and you now have the challenge ahead of the two of you.
Mhm.
If it's happened to either of you, I'm just guessing. You have the challenge of that is a huge faux pas, but it's Ryan. He's calling me back. Good job, Ryan Massey. Anyway, you now have you're charged with the charge of turning this into a fundraiser on your own, on the fly. How do you do that?
Motivate the troops. So essentially,
Hopefully you have a good sound system.
Hopefully you have a good
First
sound
of all.
system. In the situation that you don't have a good sound system, you have to get people on your team to help sell things and move things. What I always like to keep in mind is that every event is an opportunity to build towards the next year's event. And I think if you're walking into a room where it's not fundraising focused, there are things that you can take into consideration and push that night, but at the end of the day, you're really going to have to start planning that next year's event if you want it to be a fundraiser.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the scenario that I recently found myself in, that's very familiar to this hypothetical. We were tasked with selling like 150 raffle tickets, and a half an hour into doors opening, we had sold 0. And it was one of those moments where we're just like, oh darn, how are we going to sell some of these raffle tickets to raise money for the org? And what we ended up doing was switching gears and having volunteers relocate to actually selling raffle tickets in the room, which is something we have suggested in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need that. Sometimes you don't need that. It just depends on how well trained your guests are. Like we walk into rooms that are very fundraising focused where you don't even have to like announce that the raffle's going on.
Yeah.
In this scenario that you brought up where you have a whole bunch of people that aren't focused on fundraising, now it's individuals, it's necessary to advertise and also explain where the monies are going and also what you're raising money for and what the grand prize is, which is the tactic we took most recently.
How about you? Have you been in that situation?
Oh yeah, and I try to use humor to try to get everybody's attention. First of all, I think I need to get their attention first before we even do the opening announcements. I can muddle through the silent. Most of the time, not everybody's listening to our silent announcements anyway. But after that, I mean, if your example is that kind of a setup,
Right.
now we've got to get people into the ballroom. We've got to actually have them focus on our event and our organization and our mission.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is proving to be nearly impossible, then I would, and like you and I said, if we have a good sound system, we could probably break through that.
Right.
Let's just assume that we've got a mediocre sound system. It's going to be difficult, right? I try to use humor.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys don't sit down in the next 2 minutes, nobody's going to get any food.
Yeah. You're all going home hungry.
Something like that.
Tackling the catering staff.
To just get their attention just long enough so you can at least, get your opening announcements done.
Yeah.
And then once you get going, I think you just got to just
Power
plow
through it.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
got to just plow through
I think
it.
something else that would benefit those particular situations is if sometimes the people that are put in charge of raffles, from my knowledge, of what we've done, they're not power people, and I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why the raffle isn't given to the most energetic person that you have on your volunteer list or your staff. That person that you should be able to hear them all night walk around going, "You come on, have you bought your raffle ticket yet? Oh, come on, you've got to get a raffle. Look what you're going to get." You know what I mean? And just pound that.
The most outgoing
individual. And 9 times out of 10, it's one of the shyer people that stands there with a balloon, and we're doing a sweep.
And in that scenario, you have to be able to draw traffic to that person.
Yeah.
Like, that works when you have the ability to communicate with guests and say, hey, go see Sarah with the green balloon. And that at that point, you're having your MC drive the traffic to the person.
Right.
So it comes down to marketing, and also the prize that you choose has to be universally desired. And we ran into a situation where that was not the case. To your initial question with, you're going into an event that's not a traditional fundraiser, people aren't there to raise funds, I think it becomes the presenter's opportunity or responsibility to unite that group under one banner. In other words, if you're raising money for ABC organization and people are there to, eat and have a good time and reconnect with old friends, you have to somehow work the common ground into the presentation. Like, hey, we know we're all here to celebrate the local culinary artists of our neighborhood, but tonight we're going to focus on A, B, and C, right? So somehow bringing in those relatable topics that everybody can unite underneath is really essential to getting them to come along the journey with you to raising funds.
That could almost be, you could be preemptive with those groups for that example and say, now, we're all going to be in the same room. You're all going to have your own station. But remember, tonight we're here for this. Could you do something that is fundraising focused, like, try my tri-tip or whatever, but put a buck in the jar for the organization. Something along that line. Discuss with your vendors up front, hey, this is a fundraiser. So maybe that's something that you as auctioneers can suggest, because I know that we do reports. And so maybe that's a suggestion you could make is have those vendors or whatever have something fundraising-able.
What if you sold
Tag
tickets? Yeah, what if you sold tickets to where people's choice of the best dish or whatever.
Something.
You know, and that way people could buy in and vote. And hey, it's $1 a ticket. All proceeds go to XYZ organization.
Right.
Buy as many as you like.
And you could buy when you come in the door 20 tickets for $20, you know, however many you want, or 50 tickets for, you know, and then boom, you could go. And then those vendors would know that that's happening, and they could play off of that as well. Oh, come on, give me 5 of your tickets. You know, give me 5 of your tickets, and I'll tell you what, I'll donate 5 back to the organization.
I think you'd have to evaluate if the situation was that catastrophic to where you're feeling in your head, oh my gosh, this thing is going to be an utter failure if somebody doesn't get control of this room.
Mm-hmm.
And
the fundraising part of it's going to be a failure.
Yes. I mean, that's kind of the gist of that I took from your question. And I would rather it not be me and you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you feel like we're about to go off the rails here, get leadership up there on the microphone.
Yeah.
Let them yell at the crowd rather than us. But if it requires that type of roping this group in, if it's that bad, I haven't been in that kind of a situation, but I'm just trying to imagine what it would be like if I was.
Yeah.
You might have to go to that kind of extreme tactic. What do you think?
So let me I'm going to tag another question with this one, which will kind of open up more conversation about that, so you can finish what you were going to say with that. So you're going into that same room and you've got a fund and need situation. We're coming down to that time of the night that it's quiet, right? And you've already had your pre-event call, and they said, I know for sure we got one $10,000 in there, but I think we might have a 15, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you go ahead and ask for 15? You do that, and nobody. Then at the 10,000 that you were supposed to have somebody, nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go to the next level, nobody. And your first level is like $2,500, and that's your start level. How do you handle that as an auctioneer? How does the humility come into play there? You know, because you as an auctioneer have that mic and you feel like that is that your responsibility is to ask that room, right? But the truth is the responsibility lies on the people that we're working for. They have to get those pre-commits, those people that say, oh, you're going to give 10 grand. Great. We need you to raise your card in the room. And they don't. Then what?
So what is the question?
The question is, how do you handle that if you have nobody at 15, nobody at 10, nobody at 5, then boom, you start at 25? Because you personally have been to so many auctions, you see that as a failure. Your audience may not. They may just, you know.
I mean, at the end of the day, more often than not, you're following the request of what the customer wants, right? Scenario A is this, scenario B is this, and then they make a decision. If they ask you to ask at a higher level and you miss, at least you asked and missed rather than not asking at all. Because if you go into that same situation, you never ask at that higher level, then you never know. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that is always something that's a little bit of a risk for us as well. Is like it could go the other way. So in terms of like missing multiple times, you know, the things that I have seen succeed in the ballroom, not only as I do auctions, but as I see others do auctions, is to kind of refocus on the organization. Right? Because people know that you missed a couple of times, but you refocus on, ladies and gentlemen, we're here tonight because and we're looking for 100% participation. We understand we haven't found our leaders in the room yet, but we're going to, and when that happens, we're going to have a whole bunch of cards in the air. You know, I always kind of bring it back to the organization and then move forward and kind of make it as positive as possible. Find the silver lining.
Absolutely.
Find the silver
lining.
lining.
Don't bring any attention to the negative. To the negative.
Right.
Don't bring any, just pretend like it didn't happen.
Especially when they've told you somebody will raise their card at a certain level.
You're just waiting.
So
I even had a situation where I knew who the individual was, and I tried my hardest not to look at him, but I did. I just did.
Anybody?
You need this?
I went right by her.
Bitter
and we know each other, right? We've known each other for years. She looked at me and I looked at her. She knew why and all those things. But I agree with you. Keep it positive. Don't bring any attention to the negative aspect of it. And you just, once you get the results of that level where you do actually hook up, then you say, folks, boy, that was fantastic. We had 7 people at 2,500. Let's give them a great big round of applause.
Yeah.
Man, that's a great start, you guys.
Yeah.
And just go.
And I think it'd be remiss not to mention this next part, but as fundraising has changed over the years, we've seen a lot more capital campaigns.
Yes.
And all of a sudden we're seeing like, you have your spring fundraiser that's always done crazy and we always get a donation at this high level.
It's competitive now against this campaign.
Yeah, but now you're doing a capital campaign 6 months prior
Yeah.
where they already emptied the coffers,
Yeah.
for lack of a better description, and then you're supposed to make the same magic at a gala. So, it's hard to say, well, the gala's not working because we used to do this and now we're doing this, because the same monies are coming into the organization.
Mm-hmm.
They're just coming through different venues, right? And to your
Right.
example, if that individual that's always given 10,000, you're expecting them to give 10,000. Well, I just gave 15 over 3 months.
Right.
Could have been the situation.
They
that
already
found
got my
themselves.
money a couple weeks ago
Right.
from another deal.
Yeah.
And those are details we don't know.
Right. And it's
Correct.
really hard right now because I'm going into a situation actually this week where it's an ask only, and I'm trying to figure out where best to leverage the matching gifts, right? Someone gave us 10,000, we can get so many families at this level, and we'll do match dollar for dollar. We've seen it done before. But the problem I'm having is the last time this organization has had an in-person fundraising event was in 2019.
Okay.
So I'm comparing 2019's numbers, and I'm also comparing 2020, 2021, and 2022, which were all virtual. So you can't, I don't know until I get there.
Yeah.
Not to mention it's an ask only, so I don't even have time to feel the room out
No,
through a
you
live
don't.
auction.
No.
I got to come out and hope that I guess right, and really at this point it is a guess because their data is so dirty,
Sure.
right? It's dirty data. You don't
It
know.
is.
You don't know what's
Dirty
going to happen.
data. Dirty data.
That is a really- That's a tough situation to
It
be
is.
in. But
It is.
maybe we just I know what my wife would say, don't overthink it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
We're just going to wing it. Figure it
Yeah.
out.
Take the 20 grand and
Yeah,
divide
and if
it
your
into
heart's-
5,000 and
And
maybe
if your
take-
heart's in the
maybe
right
take-
spot, you're in good shape.
Right.
Maybe take 10 of it here and maybe take another 10 of it here.
Yeah. And yeah.
So you
So-
struggled during your funding need. You struggled. You know they have a goal. All right. Let's just say they have a goal of $100,000, which I know was not the case. But let's just talk about.
Well, I mean, so I mean, like back to your question of like missing multiple times. I have a huge potential of doing that this week. There's a very big potential that I go out and miss 3 times in a row this weekend. So I'm already thinking like, how am I going to combat this? Because based on the data that we just mentioned,
Yeah.
I have to ask at the big level because the big level's been succeeded at 5 years ago.
So what you're saying is that this podcast is preparing you for this week's
That's
event.
right. That's right.
I'm happy to
We
hear
bring
that.
value not only
We
to
bring
the
value
listener
to
but
each
the host.
other.
Maybe you get a really solid bullet
Maybe,
about the organization.
Oh shoot.
yeah.
After you fail at 10, you go to between 10 and 5. Not saying you're going to fail,
No,
but
no,
have
no.
a really good, juicy.
I'm laughing.
You know what we do.
I'm wondering.
I'm laughing because it's an environmental-based organization,
Oh.
so it could be like, "We'll give $5,000." Well, guys, don't worry. The polar bears are dying every day.
Yeah.
We'll give, you know what I mean? Like,
And global warming
not that I would
is
ever
real.
say that.
No,
and
I
global
get it.
warming is
Yeah.
real, and environment is important. But all jokes aside, yeah, that could be pretty funny.
We have to
Yes,
raise
you're
100.
right about
Yeah.
that. Changes things just a little bit.
Right. Choose
We
your
have
words
to raise
carefully.
$100,000,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to find good
and we're at
terms.
96.
Yeah.
And we struggled getting to 96.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we struggled getting to 96. Your person comes up to you and says, "We are only $4,000 away from our goal. Can you go back and ask
Go
again?"
back
And
and get it.
you're like, "I bled the room." But what do? Do you suggest to the person because this is obviously going to be your lead person that's asking you this, do you say to them, I just don't know if it's there, or shoot, why not? Let's give it a try.
I think you do it.
I think you do it.
I do
I think
too.
you do it. Like I
At
don't.
$4,000, yeah. I mean,
You know, after being in this business for a minute, I'm a huge proponent of failing publicly. Like you and I have talked about this on certain double opportunities and how's this all going to work out. And I think it's safer as a presenter to fail publicly, right? If I have the opportunity to double and it's not going to come through, let's try to double. And if it fails, so be it. Let's celebrate the gift that we have.
Yeah.
You know, in this case, going for another $6,000, and all right, who's closing up for $6,000?
Let's go to the $50 level.
Yeah.
Just be here all night.
But what I will say is, like, give it a pause to let them know that this isn't going to work, and then, like, finish it with, if you choose to change your mind on the drive home, pick up your phone and make a donation, knowing that we're pushing for $10,000.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you're going to see that trickle up.
You
right?
will.
We see that in a lot of fundraising events right
Yeah.
now. Like that trickle at the end really comes through.
I think it would be safer to follow the instruction of the person who hired you.
Agreed.
Hey, I want you to go back and try to get $4,200. You got to do it if they ask you.
You got to do it.
If they
You
ask
got to do it.
Otherwise, if you don't do it, then you are open for criticism.
And now,
What?
now, you
To
have.
play devil's advocate, if you have the person ask you that shouldn't be asking you, and you're like,
Yeah, then there's that.
then there's that. I mean, everybody knows that maybe you're not gonna. Okay, yeah. Moving on.
You have a heckler.
Okay.
You have had this heckler all night.
Okay.
And you've managed to maintain a level of professionalism all night.
She's really picking at this wound,
Oh,
isn't
boy.
she? Didn't we already do this?
But
Oh,
no,
boy.
we haven't done this one. So this heckler, for the second time, does not honor their bid.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do to this heckler to get them to stop or not command? Because the thing about a heckler is they can command a position where people will be watching them and looking for the next thing that they do. Because you guys are entertainers, and hecklers can be a common thing.
Mm-hmm.
I get them for me yelling all the time, and it just irritates me, but I just ignore them, right? But they're constantly doing a hip with me, or yep, or and I'm like, oh, God. But how do you handle that? Heckler!
Man, I can't say that I have been in that situation before.
Oh, that's awesome.
I really can't say in
We should have Mark
in the
Shenfield sit
term
in on this.
heckler. I can't say, and I'm getting this image in my mind of a comedian who's somebody standing up yelling at him. Your example specifically did it at, say, somebody backing out of their bid twice.
Right, but and that can be called a heckler because of the way they're doing it. They're doing it not to, not by accident or not because they've had too much to drink. They're a heckler. They're trying to give they're trying to flip you up a little bit. They're trying to trip you up, not flip you up, but flip you up would be good too.
I wouldn't take his bid anymore, or her.
Yeah.
I would just completely ignore that person. If it was twice and I still got 12 items to go before I'm done, don't take that bid anymore. And tell your ringman or woman, don't take that bid.
I would almost make them triple confirm and own it on the next one.
Yeah.
Now, sir, last couple times you bid and I wasn't quite sure if you were bidding. Are you sure you're 2,700? You're sure? Okay, you're 2,700.
You're completely sure in front of these 600 people.
Can I get a witness? Can I get a witness? Yeah.
I think if you could turn it into something humorous and do it in a way that doesn't tarnish our own reputation, because I think of us as a group. So everything that I say on the stage is backed by everybody else that's in our company.
Yeah.
If I'm the only jerk on our team, I'm not going to last on our team very long.
Right.
Well, I mean, you're not the only jerk on our team.
You're not. I'm just here to tell you. I'm here to tell you that that's not the case.
I'm just kidding.
But we don't have jerks on our team. No, I mean, but you can have somebody try to throw you off.
Yeah.
Especially after they've had a couple of cocktails, So you either have to make them a part of your routine somehow, right? Because we have had that where we've gotten thrown off a couple of times, and it's intentional. So that's why I call him a heckler, know. It could be that you've been doing this auction for a while or whatever, or you could have,
and there's just so many there's just so many factors that play into that. What comes to mind for me is this is somebody in the community who wants to be seen and may have a following of some kind and wants to show that this person is big and important. And if that's the case, then you make them feel big and important by walking over their table and saying, "Are you sure, Miss Kelly, that you would like to give again?" "Oh, Kelly's so generous at $2,700." Really
pound it on that
them.
that they're Okay, do we have time for one more question? I think we do. We're going to make the time.
Can I choose the question?
Is it on my list?
I think
Yes,
it is.
you can.
I think it is.
Sure.
So one thing that I want to talk about is, and it kind of goes back to one of the early questions of this, which is, you're in a room with 100 people that aren't necessarily there for a fundraising event. How do you present that to the group to raise money, right? That was the initial question. The next question I kind of want to pose to you guys is, how do you suggest getting the board to all get on the same page in terms of an event? Right? Because if you are truly throwing an event that's just a social piece, and then you tack on, we're raising money for XYZ, and the DNA of that event is not a fundraising focused event, how do you go about changing the inner working politics in that room? Or do you say something to the board to change the North Star or the goal of that event?
I have a question for that before I can answer that on my thought process. So is the person that hired you, are they in good with the board right now? Is there politicking going on between them and the board? You don't know those things. See, that's how I would have to answer it, is that we going into these things are not fully aware of what the behind the scenes stuff are. We are not aware of the behind the scenes relationships. So having sat on a board before, a board member's job is to take that area of people, their opinions, to something, right? If you're an elected board member, if you're chosen and you're, let's just throw it out there, you're American Heart, let's say, board member. The thing with the boards is we don't know the relationship exactly with the organization. We don't know why that board member's doing that. And I'm not so sure we belong in that role. I think our job is to educate the board on how it could be done better.
So as a fundraiser, as a fundraising professional, how do you are essentially in an unwinnable position if your goal is to raise funds and the goal of the event is not necessarily to raise funds. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that conversation could start by saying, I'm a fundraising professional. So I'm trying, if that's what we're doing tonight, these are some suggestions that would work. Otherwise, really, you need to refocus on hiring us. Yeah. And let them know that if that's not what that plan is, hiring us is not a logical move, because that's
what I'm chewing on right now. You have any thoughts, Paul?
Well, in that case, maybe your funds would be better off spent on entertainment, like a band or a comedian.
Yeah, good point.
And right? Saying that to them,
I think we could use our report.
Yeah. To help that.
To really lay that out. If somebody comes up to me after the event that I just went through and I could see what happened and these people are not focused, and before I walk out the door I'm shaking hands and they ask me, "Hey, what do you think?" Just coming off the stage and feeling that frustration, I might say, "You know what, this event has a lot of potential. I think the people have potential. I think they need to be refocused."
And I think that is why I'm having such a tough time with the last show that I was at, is because it has such huge potential to raise money for a very good cause. But I don't know if that's in the heart of the leadership of the organization.
Unless you are unaware.
And you steep hill to climb.
Right. I think it's unwinnable. Not that they can't. Like I could give a lot of suggestions, and this is what you should do next year. But at the end of the day, I don't know that those suggestions are warranted if it's not the goal, if we do not have the same goal.
I think you have to look at yourself as that is a piece of their evening that they probably looked at more as entertainment than they did fundraising. That being said, we've had a couple of organizations say to us in our meeting that morning, we've already made budget. So there's a little bit of a sect out there of these charities that we are the entertainment. We are that grand finale cherry on the Sunday. We are not the Sunday anymore. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's one of those situations where they already got all their money prior to, now it's just the show. And that makes it a little easier to swallow.
From our perspective.
From our perspective. But I don't think we are privy to all perspectives. And I think that's a fair question. You and I talked about that earlier today. I think it's a fair question to ask when we go there. How are we looking about tonight's event? Are we getting close to our goal? Have we done some pre-commits that have gotten us? And 9 times out of 10, they will say, we've reached goal.
Yeah.
Or we're $10,000 from goal. Perfect. So what do you need from me tonight? What would you like to see off the floor tonight?
Yeah.
And it could be something as simple as maybe your client feels this way. You don't know yet. I don't really care, Shelby. Just go out and entertain them for 15
It's all
minutes.
cherry.
We've already got our money. Just go out and do what you do and have fun. And then it's out of our head.
Right.
And we don't need to worry about it
Mm-hmm.
because we're just trained to try to raise money.
Right,
And
but
I-
you're
and I
also
think
trained to
that's-
validate yourself. That's a problem because, see, now you're going to try and validate yourself with the funds that you raised because we are good-hearted people that are doing something that we want what we do to add to that.
We want to be
And
a value add.
We
Yeah.
want to be a
Yeah.
value add. So if we
Yeah.
go and we only raise 20 grand, we're going to sit back and go, I know there was so
Yeah,
much
should've
more
done
there.
Better.
Well, I mean, once you see a handful of these fundraisers, you know what the elements are, and it's get a bunch of people in the room, unite them, have them strive towards a common goal. And when you see the potential of those pieces that are there, but they don't fit together like they should, you're like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's where I find myself. But I mean, it's all good conversation, and not everything has to be a fundraiser. Is kind of what I'm coming to at this point as well. If it wants to be a celebration of community and fundraising is secondary to that, then to your point, show up, make people laugh, be the entertainment, and move on.
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
as fundraising professionals, we have spent many, many moons trying to build our calendar, and more often than not, your primary goal is to raise money as the number one priority with a bullet. And that's not always the case.
That's the whole reason why we're there.
Yep, and that is not always the case, right?
Tough to wrap your head around when we've been doing it as long as we have.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you run into that because you don't run into that very often.
Yeah, exactly. And I had 2 in this last calendar month that were that way, where it didn't feel
We've
like...
had a handful as well.
Yeah, where it doesn't feel like fundraising is what's driving everything in the event, which is interesting. So totally derailed your questions. I think you got through 2 of 6 of these. I see.
No,
here.
that's good. I always put a bunch on, and then I can, because we get talking about it. So I only had one last question.
Okay, go.
And it's super quick, so just answer it real quick. Somebody comes up to you. You don't have a ringman. It's just you. They got a last-minute item. You do not have anywhere to step it because you know that this item is probably going to hurt us. What do you tell them?
See, that's a great donation. Can I check with my team and then put it back on the event planner or the main contact?
You don't have one. It's you.
How bad is the item?
I mean, it's a piece of art, and the artist is in the room, and the artist had art that was in the silent that did nothing.
Oh, so they brought it from the silent where it got no bids to see if we could get bids during the live.
Hey, are you a miracle?
I'm not saying that this happened to us. I'm not saying that this happened to us. But if it did, what would you say? Because I think we answered it well. It was a while ago, but
I would
So this wasn't
evaluate the
recent?
individual.
This
I
was
would,
not quite recent, no,
It's not
but it
recent.
sticks
I
in my
would-
mind.
If I had a split second to make a decision, I'm right in the middle of doing my job. I would evaluate the individual. I would evaluate the situation. If it was a cute little old lady granny, I'd say, "You're darn right, I will.
Is it a
Yeah,
pie?
here.
Yeah.
I'll just find somewhere to do it. I'll do it."
And then you'll go spend 500 of your own dollars and buy it.
Oh
so
no,
that it's-
no. That needs to fail publicly,
Yeah.
as previously mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
No, I mean, I think that Paul's kind of saying the right things. You know, if the donor seems like, I would say, geez, I just don't know if we have it in the timeline tonight. Would probably be what
maybe
I
you can
blame
put it
on.
online or sell it at the
Yeah.
school or
Yeah,
something like
for
that.
sure.
Yeah.
Or right at the end. You know what I mean? Because if you're afraid of timeline, and you are going to end the night and be the last thing these people see, doesn't hurt to throw in one more item. And if it's at the end, it's going to fall on its fate. So be it.
Oh, thank you so much. This is my daughter. Her dad is the chairman of the
Oh.
board. So I'm so glad that you decided to do that.
Exactly.
And then you
Exactly
find
right.
out, yeah.
Exactly right.
And then you're like, what I meant to really say was,
Oh,
let's
man.
sell it online.
But I mean, that's so much of what we do, though. Is
It's
you
all of
respond in the
what we do.
in the
You
moment.
do
You know what I
respond
mean?
in the
Like the
moment.
guy that I
Yeah,
tried
you
to
do.
keep off the microphone a year and a half ago. That probably would have brought it a lot more money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, there's just it's fun.
It
That's
is
what
fun.
makes this so cool. This
It
business.
does. It
Yeah.
does make it cool.
Yeah, you're on the fly.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys letting me do these. I like this format. So
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, people watching can learn and get ideas.
yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the idea.
It is.
Or even our team. If any of our team is watching this and they have, especially the younger guys, and they have questions and they don't know how to handle certain situations,
Yeah.
maybe this might help them.
Agreed.
Even if it's just one person, it's worth it to me.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Thanks for joining us this week and every week. This is the Nonprofit Network powered by Stokes Auction Group. We are the longest standing auction podcast this side of the Mississippi. So feel free to stay plugged in and listen to all the things that we have to say. There's fundraising trends all over the place. They're blowing up. We appreciate you hanging out with us today.
All right, you guys, take care. Thanks for being here.
Did you get it? I was trying to tell you telepathically, be courageous. You got this.
And go do some good out in that world. Have fun, you guys. Appreciate you being
gang.
here.
See y'all.
Till next time.